but I am here.
We are now live, Mayor Rochelle.
Okay, thank you. Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome. We'll go ahead and get started. I call to order the meeting of the NVTA Finance Committee for January 21st, 2021. First, we have the resolution for the Finance Committee to conduct our meeting electronically. It is in our packet. Do we have a motion to adopt the resolution?
So moved, Chair Randall.
Second. Board Member
Thank
Crystal.
you. Thank you. Is there any discussion? If not, is there anyone opposed to the adoption of the resolution? Hearing no opposition, it has passed unanimously. Next, we have approval of the summary minutes of November 19th, 2020. Are there any corrections? Okay, hearing none, do we have a motion?
So moved.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, any discussion? Okay, hearing no discussion, is there anyone opposed to the approval of the minutes? Okay, hearing none, we will consider this to be passed unanimously. Next item on the agenda is the Finance Committee meeting schedule, and I will turn it over to Ms. Deb Sin.
Thank you, Mayor Rochelle. The Finance Committee has been meeting third week of each month on Thursdays at 1 p.m. The date is collectively decided, keeping in mind the reconciled financials and revenue reports that the Finance Committee receives from the recently concluded month. This meeting objective prepares the staff to undertake any approved actions ahead of time for the subsequent authority meeting. For the meetings that do not have any action item or time-sensitive discussion items are generally cancelled. Additionally, reports on investments, revenue, and operating budget continue to be presented at the next meeting. On January 16th of 2020, the committee adopted a schedule that runs through February 18th of 2021. With this, I would let Mayor Rochelle to take it over from here and discuss the upcoming meeting schedule.
Thank you. Thank you. And I would ask the committee if the suggested date of September 16th is a problem for anyone. I see that it conflicts with Yom Kippur. Are there any objections to that?
Mayor Rochelle, I will be observing Yom Kippur and not able to attend.
Okay, perhaps we should strike that date and then arrive at another date. We've got plenty of time to decide upon another meeting date. What is the will of the committee? Comments, please.
I would agree, even if I'm not observing. It's an important day for the Jewish community, and I think we should strike that day.
Yes. Okay. I see Jeff's nodding his head. Okay. Thank you very much. We will strike that and arrive at a date to be decided. Do we have a motion to approve the adjusted meeting schedule?
So moved, Chair Randall.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay. Okay. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, since there's no one opposed, we will consider this to have passed unanimously. Next item is FY22 budget guidance, and that would be Mr. Longi.
Thank you, Mayor Rochelle. The bulk of the staff report actually repeats what we went over in November. The reason we included it again in the staff report is basically we didn't know the committee composition until just before dispatch. So we are continuing to work towards, we are on schedule to bring to the committee in February details on the budget, which will basically include the normal escalators to the base budget for contracts and any inflation. The only new initiative that we are looking at for fiscal 22 is some further enhancements to the Project Information Management System, or PIMS. That is a system that you saw the dashboard for a couple months ago at your authority meeting. So we're looking towards a pretty simple budget. Mayor Younger, you may find the budget basis information in the staff report interesting. It shows, what the previous guidance from previous finance committees have been as we develop these budgets. But I'll just say at this point, I'll leave it as we're on target to bring you details in February.
Okay, thank you so much.
If there's any questions, I'll be more than happy to respond.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Longi. Are there any questions? We're a small enough committee, you can just jump right in. No? Hearing no questions, as I see, there's no formal action required of us on this. So we will move on to number 6, financial activities report, and that would be a verbal report from Mr. Longi.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. We have a couple of things to go over with the committee to basically keep you informed. About the biggest activity we are working on right now is the procurement of the transaction update contractor. We are in the negotiation phase. We are looking at proposals that came right up to our budget amount. And we hope to have the negotiations completed in order to bring a recommendation to the committee in February. Another big activity that we are working on is looking towards the prospect of doing forward appropriations. As many of you will remember, we actually have been doing appropriations for projects in advance of when the revenue comes in. We have a complex formula that we've vetted with our external accountants to make sure that we stay on track with that. We put that on hold last year because for the 24-25 update to the 6-year program, because of the COVID-based revenue uncertainty. As we will talk about a little bit later, our revenues are looking solid to our estimates. However, I do have some longer term concerns that we will go over. A critical item to note is we have asked all of the jurisdictions and agencies to let us know by January 29th if they would even be looking for a forward appropriation. That recommendation to this committee by staff, excuse me, will be based on 2 large factors. One, obviously, is revenue. The other is demand. If the lower the demand, the more likely we would be able to do it, regardless of the revenue picture. So we need that critical ingredient from the jurisdictions and agencies that we're expecting the 29th of this month, and we'll be able to move forward with that. That's the update for you. If there's any questions, I'll be happy to respond to them.
Thank you, Mr. Longi. Any questions? Okay, and there is no action expected from us, so we'll move on to number 7, investment portfolio report. Mr. Longi.
I am happy to report, and I just like saying that when we get to this stage, I am happy to report that we have less money as of the end of December than we did at the beginning of the month. Mayor Younger, what that represents is we have a large investment portfolio, and all of that money is already assigned to projects. So what the reduced amount in the portfolio balance means is that projects are getting done, the money is getting spent. Not something a CFO normally celebrates at a financial meeting, but there we go. Moving to page 2, Deb, the table at the bottom. You'll see the portfolio at 0.15 interest earnings rate, which is terrible, but it is not as bad as our benchmarks, which are the Fed funds rate at 0.09, and you'll see the local government investment pool rate, et cetera. So the portfolio still is holding its value and outperforming its benchmarks. And as we go to the table on the top of page 4, Deb, you will see that graphically, as I've noted all along, this is a low risk portfolio. We do not invest aggressively to make yield. Therefore, the fact that we have actually been able to hold value for this much time as the market has been going down, I think is a pretty good achievement for us. Ultimately, if this interest rate scenario stays the same, we're going to come down to it. There's just no other way to avoid that. I'd be happy to respond to any questions on the portfolio.
Questions?
Madam Chairman, I have a question. Mr. Longi, you just said the words "as the market has been going down." Help me understand that, since I follow the market pretty close, and I know what a safe investment is and a more risky investment, and I understand what our portfolio says. And How are you getting to the statement that the market has been going down?
I should have fine-tuned my statement and noted the fixed income market, bonds, and money market instruments, etc. What you're seeing is the equity market, stocks,
Okay.
basically.
The fixed income market has been going down. Okay, I understand that. Thank you.
Any other questions? Since no action is required, we'll move on to monthly revenue report. Mr. Longi.
For the monthly revenue report, if we could go to attachment A, Dev. And at the top portion of this table shows the sales tax receipts, and we are outperforming our estimate. We did estimate less revenue than last year, and we are receiving less revenue than last year, but not our changes may have been too pessimistic at this point for sales tax. But we will continue to watch that trend. We do not have the holiday sales in yet. These are December's receipts, meaning they were received to us in December. They actually represent October's over-the-counter transactions. So we're still prior to the holiday season. Looking down a little further, the vehicle license registration fees is the formal name for what we commonly refer to as the I-81 money. And you'll note we have not received any. I am trading phone calls with VDOT CFO. This was an issue at CTB's meeting earlier this week. So I'll look to get some clarity on at least why those funds are not moving forward. Something coming in. The presentation to CTB had its own estimate for NVTA's receipt for these funds. Originally, we had the expectation of $20 million a year. The state has revised that down to 13 some million. Our estimate has been much more pessimistic, and we had estimated it 6 million. So I note that because the $13 million adjustment, obviously from the state, will not have an impact on our budget estimates as long as we at least get the 6 million in. Moving to the regional congestion relief.
Madam Chairman, may I ask a question before you go on? Mr. Longi, so when you say we haven't received any I-81 money, you don't mean any, you mean in this quarter, right? You don't mean not any at all.
I mean this fiscal year.
This fiscal year, okay, all right. What have we received up to this moment? Jeff is laughing.
Last fiscal year?
Yes.
I would have to go back and look. I don't know it off the top of my head.
$100, $200, somewhere in there?
It was substantially less than the state's estimate. It was a couple $1 million.
Okay, thank you.
And if I could, to follow up on Chair Randall's point, initially we were to receive about 9.2 million in fiscal year 20, 13 point something in 21, and I think from FY 22 on, it was supposed to be $20 million. In looking at the CTB's presentation, or the presentation to the CTB the other day that Ms. Farmer gave, it is actually going to be under 14 million by fiscal year 2027. So it's 13 point something every fiscal year, with the peak, at least for their spreadsheet that she discussed, in fiscal year 2027.
Then that's their estimates. That's not our estimates, correct?
That is correct.
Okay, thank you.
Are they going to make adjustments to their estimates? What's going to happen going forward?
Those were their adjusted estimates.
Yes.
I beg your pardon, I didn't quite hear that.
The numbers that we saw this week were their adjusted estimates.
Oh, they were adjusted. Okay, thank you. Thank you. Any other questions before Mr. Longi proceeds? Okay.
On grantor's tax, we are looking at remarkable numbers at 861% above estimate. Clearly, what we're seeing there is We haven't seen an impact on commercial property yet, but we have seen a tremendous activity in the real estate sector, not only increase in value, but also an increase in transactions. One of the things to remember with the grantor's tax is you can have decreasing values of property that could be offset by the number of transactions. Likewise, you can have high values of property, but if they're not transacting, which is the only time we pick up a revenue from the stream is when a property sells, we may not see an impact. So clearly, we're not worried about this number for this year, but I'm kind of leaving a place mark with the committee because I do have concerns on the impact, the COVID impact on commercial property in the years to come. The good news is, unlike the I-81, we do have a pretty solid trend on being able to estimate this revenue outside of a pandemic. We also, this is one of the revenues that we consult with the jurisdictions and get their input as well as we make the revenue estimate. So while it's a good looking number, I still have concerns for the outlying fiscal years, which are part of the project programs that the authority has adopted already, going out to fiscal 25. So we may be using some of that excess in future fiscal years, but we'll be addressing that as part of the revenue estimates.
Mm-hmm. I would note that Ms. Teal has also placed up in the chat that the NVTA received $4.4 million for FY 2020 of the I-81 funds. Just wanted to bring that to everyone's attention. Are there any questions?
Madam Chair, this may be where Mr. Longi was going to go next, but did you mention the status of the TOT or revenues from the TOT?
We don't receive TOT.
Well,
roughly to the locality.
No, are you talking about from the omnibus transportation bill, Ms. Crystal?
Wasn't all right. I suppose I have to reveal my ignorance here. I thought some of the TOT was rerouted as part of the omnibus transportation bill.
Not to the authority. There was some TOT that went to the non-WMATA members.
Okay.
And TOT was used as part of making some of the WMATA contributions, but it doesn't come through the authorities.
Through us. Okay. All right. Thank you.
Last item on this chart is the table for the $20 million transfer. We are falling into a rhythm now that you will get 5 million blocks 4 times a year in the first month of the fiscal quarter. So there should be no surprises there. That wraps up my presentation on revenues.
Any other questions for Mr. Longi? Okay, we'll move on to monthly operating budget report, Mr. Longi.
As the committee knows, we have probably one of the simplest operating budgets that the members see at any point in time. We are approximately, or we are 50% through the fiscal year. We've utilized 39% of the budget. A big portion of that is we have some current activity on PIMS enhancements that haven't been billed yet. So that's what creates that big differential. I will note that COVID is not driving up our office expenses. We do have some expenses that are going up, with communications technology, et cetera, but those are being absorbed through the lack of other expenses that come with basically not occupying the office for most of the time. If there's any questions on that, I'll be happy to take them.
Any questions? Okay, it appears we've come to, yes, go ahead. Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Longi, did you just say there's operating expenses because you don't occupy the buildings?
There's savings.
Occupating savings. Okay. Okay. Thank you. Mm-hmm. Thank you.
Yes, sir. I can't hear you, Jeff. I think you're on mute. McKay, we still can't hear you. Deb, is there some way we can help Chair McKay be heard? If not,
You can
could you
an
put your
exit and
question
contact
in the
me.
chat? Okay. Thank you, Chair McKay. Thank you. If there are no other questions, Piers, we're at the end of our agenda. As always, we're very grateful for the hard work that staff does for the NVTA and for this committee. So is there any other business that needs to come before this committee? Hearing none, we are adjourned, and thank you, everyone.
Thank you.